What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American who lives in Accra, Ghana. I am in Brooklyn, New York right now after having a weekend away at my former boarding school for my 20-year high school reunion. And today we're going to talk about what you can do while you're in Ghana, different types of trips and tours and events, as a continuation of what we talked about last week. So if that is of interest to you, then this is the video for you. All right. We are live on all platforms. We're live on Instagram. We're live on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn, and we're live on YouTube. I think this is the second or third time we've gone live on all of these particular platforms. If you're joining us from Instagram Live, click on the link that is pinned there if you want to go directly to see our guest. Our guest is going to be joining a little bit later today, so I'll do some housekeeping and give you guys some updates in the meantime, just to make sure that we give her some time to join. But before we do, some housekeeping. So for those of you who are, well, first of all, actually, can you hear me? Let me know that you guys can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. Menelik's here. What's up? Good evening. Good evening. Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I want to know that you can hear me. So if you're on Instagram, give me a thumbs up so I know you can hear me. If you're on YouTube, give me a thumbs up so I know you can hear me. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me before we get started. Okay. Menelik says you can hear me. Good. And Scholar Sharon says she can hear me. Homie Coco says they can hear me too. Great. By the way, again, those of you who are on Instagram Live, just a quick update. Today, we're talking to a special guest about all of the different things that you can do in Ghana as events and tours, etc. So this is just kind of a continuation of our series from last week, where we were talking about the different things that you can do. We just want to make sure that we give you guys all the options. So we have a special guest today that's going to talk to us about some of the different tours that she puts on in Ghana and around the continent of Africa. We've now done 2 of these previously. And so we want to continue to be able to offer that same kind of value to all of you guys. Cool. King Joseph is here from LA and you can hear me. Great. Homie Coco said they can hear me. All right, cool. So while we wait for our guests, a little bit of introduction for those of you who aren't familiar. Again, if you're joining from Instagram Live, if you want to see our guests, you want to click on the pinned link in the that's there. That's the YouTube Live. It'll take you right to the YouTube Live so that you can see our guests. So again, my name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I am Sierra Leonean American. I'm a dual citizen. I live full-time in Ghana, although this year I've only spent 5 months in Ghana because I've been traveling so much. But technically, I live in Ghana. I work for a company based in the United States. And I previously worked for a company based in, that has offices all around the continent of Africa. I worked in an e-commerce company based on the continent of Africa, Jumia. And so I was there for a year, and then I started this new role. But as a part of my journey, I document everything, right? So everything from building a house in Sierra Leone to everything I do in Ghana, living, dating, everything that goes along with what it's like to be a single person moving to a new country like Ghana. And then my travels all around West Africa. And then, my cultural experiences, historical sites that I go to, everything that I've learned. And then when I travel outside of the continent, I try to go to, African museums and meet with African people and get their experiences and their stories on the continent of in the United States after leaving the continent of Africa. And then I'm also interviewing people who've moved from the US to West Africa. So I have a couple of interviews with Sierra Leoneans. I have a couple of interviews with folks who've moved to Ghana. All of that's on the channel. So if you want to see any of that, you can go back and check that out. Again, for those of you who are joining on Instagram Live, there's a pinned link for the YouTube so that you can just join the YouTube Live so you can watch it live on YouTube so you can see our guests, because you will be able to hear our guests, but you won't be able to see our guests if you're on Instagram. And again, this is a continuation of what we did last week, where we kind of did another company that showed you what their tours were like and what they're doing. And we're just giving you like a diversity of companies that are doing tours. So you have things to do while you're there. All right, cool. King Joseph said, I got to jump in a few minutes. Got some business work through. Hope all is good. All is well. Thanks for joining. Abu Bakar Kamara says, yes, they can hear me. Cool. And King Joseph did say I was a busy person. Yes, I am. Productive, not just busy. That's the way I like to put it. All right, cool. So while we wait for our guest, I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of an update what this last week has been like. As some of you might know, I am 38 years old, which means that my 20-year high school reunion just happened this last weekend. And so some of you who are watching might have been there. It was interesting to have to run into some people I haven't seen since we graduated. There definitely was like 2 people that I have not seen since 2002. Obviously, with Facebook back in 2004, 2005, we were able to catch up with people through Facebook, and then obviously Instagram. Some people have YouTube channels, TikTok, and the like. But still, it's different to see people in 3D and to talk to them. And it's interesting to hear how people viewed you in high school versus who the person is that you are now. Because we're streaming on LinkedIn, I'm not gonna give all the details, but in high school, I had a lot of maturing to do. And so it's really interesting to talk to people and they see such a huge difference in me. I mean, it also has been 20 years, but you know, there's a difference in the person I am now versus who I was in high school. But it was really, really a really good time. A lot of fun. Saw some people I haven't seen in a couple years, saw some people I haven't seen in 20 years. But it was a little disappointing that the whole group couldn't come. You know, it's unfortunate that a small subset of our class was there. I think when we graduated, there was 103 total people who graduated. I think we lost about 3 along the way. And so, you know, I think we're right around 99 or so folks, 3 or 4 along the way that we lost. And 99 or so folks still left, you know, who are from our class. And I think maybe max 20 people came, which is really unfortunate because like, this is one of those, you know, it's one of those times where you want to get everybody together, you know, and I was excited to see everyone. I spent 13 years in that boarding school. And so everybody who was there, either I knew them since I was 5 years old or I met them along the way once they got there, but I had already been there before them. And so it's just interesting to kind of catch up with those folks now, all these years later, and just to talk about where they are in life. So that was really cool. And I got some new subscribers from that. So that was also cool. So some folks are probably joining right now and they are watching some of the videos. So I do appreciate those who do watch, who are MHS alumni or MILTs, as we so affectionately call ourselves. All right, cool. So in terms of content, I did want to mention that I have a video coming out on Wednesday. It's going to be the first part of my trip to LA when I went to LA a little bit earlier. And then the second video on Saturday is going to be the second part of that trip. So went to a couple, did a couple cool things while I was in LA. And then with my sister and her kids, we went to Legoland on that Saturday. So I'm going to do it in 2 parts to kind of separate those 2 pieces of content. So Wednesday and Saturday, that's what's coming up. So if you want to see what that was like, you definitely want to check that out. And then next week, I have another interview coming from someone else who moved to Ghana. And then we're going to go live next Monday with Ivy Prosper. So if you guys are familiar with Ivy Prosper, she runs social media for she did for the year of return and beyond the return. So anything you've seen social media related as it pertains to the year of return and beyond the return, she has been responsible for managing at least the Ghana Tourism Authority and what they do. And so we're going to talk to her about the events that are coming up in this December. So those of you who are planning to visit Ghana, this will be a really good one to listen into. So again, this week and last week are more about all the activities you can do around Accra or outside of Accra that are kind of separate from the beyond the return activities, but they can kind of be intertwined with them. And then next week, we're going to have someone talk to us directly about the events of the year of return and beyond the return and do a little bit of a refresher on the core tenets and the pillars to the Beyond the Return project, because it's really cool. And I think it's really important for you guys to hear about that. So that's what we'll be talking about next week. Beyond that, I am working to try to get a couple folks from Sierra Leone to talk about things going on in Sierra Leone. I do know my audience is kind of split between Sierra Leone diasporans and Ghanaian diasporans and just folks in general interested in coming to West Africa. And so I do want to give some love to Sierra Leone and the events that are happening in Sierra Leone. So hopefully the week after next or the week following that, we can get somebody on to talk more about that. And so, yeah, like I said, our guest just did a tour today. So she's joining a little bit late. She did a tour of Accra. So she's been very busy. It's a very busy season right now. Everybody's coming to Ghana and West Africa right now. They're starting early. And so she was in the process of doing a tour a little earlier. So she's going to join a little bit later than today. While we wait for her to get on, does anybody have any questions for me about this last weekend or anything in general? I know that there are always random questions that come up. So if you guys have any questions to talk to me about, for sure, just put them in the chat and we can talk about it. What else I want to talk to you guys about? I have some surprises on the way too about some travel around the continent of Africa. That's what we'll talk about. Actually, we'll talk about this because I'm still traveling in the US. So this Friday, I'm going to Orange County. So I'll be in Orange County for the weekend. I shouldn't have said that. Scratch that. This Friday, I'm traveling. I'll tell you guys why later on next Monday's live, but that was just dumb. I shouldn't have said that. But next Monday I will be on live, and I'll give you guys updates about what happened this last weekend. There's some interesting things happening this next weekend, and I'll tell you guys about it next Monday on the live. And so I'll be in Los Angeles in the near term for a couple of weeks. So for those of you in LA, I know King Joseph's in LA. I know that there's a few other folks that are in LA. I do want to try to put together a meet and greet, and so that we can get together and talk about anything about coming to West Africa, right? If you have questions about going to Sierra Leone, if you have questions about going to Ghana, if you're thinking about moving, I would love to have conversations with you all because I think this could be a really good time to hear you guys out in person. Some people don't like to ask their questions on the live, and so I'm more than happy to answer those questions in person. There's a lot to talk about. There were a lot of questions this weekend about what it's like living in Ghana. People asked a lot of questions about what is it like to work in Ghana? What's it like to live in Ghana? What's the cost of living like? And people are very surprised by how the dollar can stretch so much further in Ghana if you know the right people and you have a plan. So I was talking to people about my housekeeper, and people pay more per week for a housekeeper or a babysitter in the US than I do per month. So for those of you who are new to the channel, we've talked about this before, and I have a video that I'll be posting in maybe a couple of months about my housekeeper and the great job that she does for me. It's $107 a month, and she does everything, like from cleaning my sneakers, like the white parts of the sneakers. She cleans that. She cleans my shoelaces to make sure they remain white. She does all my laundry. She cooks multiple meals a week, like twice a week. She'll cook a bunch of meals so that I have food for other days. But basically, I have 3 meals a day, 7 days a week covered when I'm at home in Ghana for $107 a month. So that means I'm very particular about what I eat. So because I'm vegan, right? So for breakfast, I have a fruit juice with kale and with spinach in it. And so I do mangoes, apples, sometimes pears, and bananas. And that's every single morning I get those. And then for lunch, I do some of those same fruits on salad for lunch. And then I have a vegan friendly West African meal for dinner 7 days a week. If I decide to do something else, because I decide to, but that's all done by my housekeeper for $100 a month. If you want that in the United States, that's going to cost you maybe $1,000, $2,000. I don't know. It's going to cost you quite a bit of money. And so I get all of that for $107 a month. So I definitely would say, if you're wondering about the cost of living, there are some costs that are inflated a bit, like house prices. If you want to buy a house, sometimes rent can be a bit inflated, but you get other creature comforts that you don't get in the United States, at least not at the same rate. So yeah, so I did want to mention that. Also, you guys might notice there's a different background where I am right now. I'm staying at a friend's house today, which this is actually a place that we're going to be putting up on Airbnb. So I'm taking some pictures of it, and I'm going to help with the listing. And so when you come to New York, I'm in Long Island City right now, which is in Queens, close to New York, close to Manhattan, I should say. So if you're planning on coming to New York anytime soon, let me know about the Airbnb if you're interested in it, and I'll send you guys the link to it. But yeah, so I wanted to give you that update as well. I'm just killing time while we wait for our guest to join. She is really busy and was, as I said, doing a tour today. So it's going to take a little time for her to join. And so for those of you who are just joining, a few people are joining. Today, we're going to talk about some tours and events that you can do in Ghana, whether that's this December, if you're planning on coming this December, or beyond December. Also, if you're just joining from Instagram Live, there is a YouTube link that is pinned there. You can click that link and come join the YouTube Live so that you'll be able to see our guest when she joins. She's joining a bit late because she was out doing a tour of Accra. And so she just wanted to make sure that she was decompressed a little bit before she was ready to go. I didn't want to postpone it since I already had promoted this, told people that we were having her on. And so I just wanted to give her some time to get ready and to join us again. So I think she's going to be joining us any minute now. So in the meantime, more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has while we wait for her to join. Usually you guys have a bunch of questions by this point. Do you guys have no questions for me? This is a rarity. The one time where I need to kill a little bit of time before our guest joins. You guys have no questions, no comments, no thoughts. All right, well, we'll talk about things that are happening in the news as of recent, and maybe we can get your thoughts on that. I want to ask you guys on your thoughts on free speech, since we have folks that are from all over the world, and there's been some interesting conversations happening around like Kanye, for instance, and some of the things that he said as it pertains to things that are considered anti-Semitic and things that also would be considered misinformation as it pertains to things that happened in the recent news, right, with the death of George Floyd and things like that. And it's interesting, right, because there's this whole conversation right now, because in the United States, obviously, the First Amendment is the freedom of speech, right? And most people in the U.S. look at the importance of amendments based on their number, right? So if it's the number one amendment, it's probably the most important amendment, right? That's how most people, I think, believe in, the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms, right? And so that's why people are always very serious about their guns in the United States. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this, because I do believe in the idea of freedom of speech. I do also know that every corporation can make their own decisions. We do live in a capitalistic society. So if a corporation decides not to air an interview, that is the right of that corporation. I do think it's disingenuous, though, to edit the interview in a way that fits your narrative. So, for instance, Kanye's interview on Fox News, on Fox News with Tucker Carlson, what we learned later was that some of what he said was edited to, I think, maybe more align a little bit more with what what Tucker's been talking about on his channel and on his program, and some of the things that he agrees with Kanye on. Now, Kanye does tend to go off on tangents, so sometimes you do have to cut short. You do have to cut short your interviews sometimes, but I don't think you want to you don't want to edit in a way that just matches what you think. So anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that. So I'll give you guys some time to give me your thoughts, because I want to get your thoughts. But in the meantime, Dan Diablo is saying, what up with Natural Ghana Girl getting kicked to the curb? Oh, that's what you're saying. Okay. This is okay. So I think what you're trying to say is, you guys might have seen 2 weeks ago, I did an interview with Della, Natural Ghana Girl. And in that, we talked about her move from the UK to Ghana with her family. And I think it was yesterday or in the last 24 hours, she did post that, you know, she has, her and her family, or her and her husband have decided to split up. And so, you know, you guys want to check out that video, you can check it out. I actually just saw it. So, you know, it's titled like Major Life Update. Don't go now. Wait till after this live is over to watch it. But if you want to see about it, you can see it. So obviously the interview that I did with her, where we are talking about the fact that she's building a house and building it with her husband. And, you know, she talks about her kids, a ton of that. And a lot of her content did include the group, that entire group. But it looks as though they've decided to go on their separate ways. But I am definitely not a gossip columnist. I have no idea what happened, and it's not my business. But it's kind of relevant because I did interview her, and I think it was not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, I posted an interview with her. So if you see that interview, and some things may seem a bit off in terms of what we talked about in that interview versus where she is currently, that is why. So let me just double check to see where our guest is. But yeah, that's Dan Diablo stirring things up. Just the way you phrase things, Dan. Disco Dan. You always have an interesting way to phrase things that can cause a little bit of trouble, controversy, if you will. But yeah, nobody has any thoughts on the idea of freedom of speech. I think it's interesting because not every country has the idea of freedom of speech, right? And so a lot of times you have people who aren't able to speak their truth, right? You know, in Nigeria, you guys remember when they had the NSARS movement, you know, what you saw was, you know, the police shooting into the crowd of people, right? In Sierra Leone, you saw where there was a protest a month or so back, maybe 2 months back. You saw this, you know, unfortunately, 27 people lost their lives, 21 civilians, if I'm not mistaken, or 21 civilians and 6 law enforcement, folks in law enforcement in Sierra Leone. So it's unfortunate, but that is what happened. And so, so yeah, so I'm interested to get your thoughts. I see there is a comment here from Lattice Photos. Free speech doesn't mean free of consequence. So this is an important point. So somebody who, a radio personality, Charlemagne the God, you guys might be familiar with him from the Breakfast Club. One of the things he does talk about is freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. And so that is true. The way freedom of speech was taught to me growing up was, you can say whatever you want, but you can't scream fire in the middle of a movie theater. Because if what you're saying can have a negative impact on the broader society, then that is something that you can end up having, there can be consequences for that, right? And I think that's where freedom of speech tends to get infringed upon, where people have issues, is because I think other folks are deciding whether or not it has an impact on the broader society. As Teimosa Martin says, I have something for you. I've had some people who are non-binary asking about experiences might be like for them in Ghana. My thoughts. It's a good question. I will say this: the general population kind of minds their own business for the most part, right? I will say though, Ghana it's a very conservative society in terms of like Christianity and Islam. And so that leads a lot of times to people's thought processes on things like, let's say non-binary individuals, right? And so there are anti-LGBTQ laws that were planning to be passed earlier this year or last year. I'm not sure if they actually ended up getting passed. But I think as long as you're a foreigner, there really aren't really many issues. I think more of the things that happen is like in local communities, or if you are Ghanaian, I think there are more challenges there. But I think in terms of like international folks coming to visit, I'm not too sure there are really too many issues there. I've heard people have discussions about it, and for sure, there's not the level of sensitivity in those conversations that you hear in most places in the United States. That's for sure. You know, just to be frank with you, you know, in the office environment that I was in, people had a lot of conversations and a lot to say. The conversation sounded a lot to me like conversations I remember having about the same topics in the early 2000s, late 90s. People may not be as progressive with something like non-binary in Ghana as they are in the States, right? And in other parts of Africa on the continent, there are also other places where people are not going to be as, you know, as open to the discussion. All right, and on that note, we have done enough killing of time. We have our very special guest joining us. Her name is Henrietta, and I'm going to bring her on now. Henrietta, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent.
Yeah, I've tried to listen to you a bit on IG, just a little bit, but I think the conversation has been going well so far.
Yes. I wanted to kill some time, so I told the group that you're busy. You did a tour of Accra City tour today, and so you were kind of jump on after just getting back. I think like an hour ago. You just got back home, right?
Right. Yeah. It's been nice.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. So on that note, well, let's talk about how we first met. How did we first meet? Did we first meet when we were doing the webinar for Launchpad Africa? Is that when we first met? The Ghana Wi-Fi. You guys know, if you guys have joined my live and seen some of my guests, and my Wi-Fi too, when I'm in Ghana, sometimes we have some challenges. But in the meantime, while we wait for Henrietta's internet to come back, Tiemosa Martin says, thanks for the reflection. No problem. Dan Diablo is saying something. I don't know if I want to. Leslie Jones. I'm gonna leave your question out because you always have some kind of incendiary way to ask your questions. So I'm gonna leave that out for now. I'm gonna self-edit on that one. Unfortunately, we lost Henrietta for a moment. It looks like her connection is a bit unstable, so she'll be joining back in a second. You know, so that's something for you guys to know when you go to Ghana. One of the things that I'm going to be doing, I'm waiting for my SIM card to come in today, is I'm getting a Google Fi plan. This is not a commercial for Google Fi, although I would love to be a brand ambassador for them. If you guys remember, Aisha Ladan, about a month or so ago, she joined us to talk about how to get your dual citizenship as someone who's a Sierra Leonean descendant, but don't have parents that were born there. And so through your African ancestry, and she mentioned that she was using Google Fi all over Sierra Leone and in Ghana with no issues. And she was able to connect really easily. So, you know, they have a plan. They have an international plan that's good for streaming. It's unlimited. You can also do as a pay-as-you-go plan like you do in Ghana with other plans. So they're pretty flexible. And so it's something that I definitely would recommend if you can. Henrietta is reconnecting, but in the meantime, is it Teimosa? You have to tell me how to pronounce it. Give me the phonetic spelling on the next one. But yeah, you got another question? Go ahead, ask it. Let's bring Henrietta back on, and then we'll answer. Is it Teimosa? Teimosa's question. I think it's Teimosa. All right, Henrietta, are you back?
Yeah, sorry about the network issue. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. God.
No worries, no worries. I was just saying, you know, obviously when I'm in Ghana, it's the same issue, right? We know the deal. We know the deal. But I was just mentioning Google Fi apparently is really good. So I'm signing up for Google Fi and I'll be trying it in Ghana, and I may be the biggest advocate for Google Fi moving forward.
Okay, let me see. Let me know how that goes. Let me know how it goes.
We'll do. Okay, cool. So I was asking where we met because Oh, so we met in person in Aburi briefly, right? That's where we met,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. At Herman's
our
place. Yeah.
mutual
Treehouse.
friend who has a big house there, right? And you were staying there, and you were just doing a tour, right? You had just been
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and you were staying there.
Then
Okay,
I was also actively reviewing. I was still reviewing hotels and resorts and stuff like that.
okay, cool. And Maya was there as well, and
So
Trudy.
stay there. Exactly. Yeah, Maya was there, Trudy was there, you were there, your friends were there. We had such a nice time, good breakfast. I remember all of that nice conversations and all of that. It
Really
was
good.
it was a good time. I can't wait for Herman to be back so we can redo that.
Oh, 100%. And also all the people you met, the Sierra Leoneans that you met, they're all coming to Ghana in December. So we're all going to be there at the end. I'm actually coming with them. I'm going to Sierra Leone after I leave the States. And then with them, we're all traveling to Ghana together. So it'll be fun.
Fantastic. Looking forward.
Yes, it should be exciting times. Okay, so then you did our Launchpad Africa webinar after that. And I realized that I thought it would be great to talk to you again because we've over the last week and then a couple previous discussions, we've been having conversations with folks and interviewing folks who have businesses in Ghana. And I realized that we haven't really talked to too many Ghanaian business owners. We've talked to people who are of Ghanaian descent, maybe who grew up elsewhere, who have businesses. And so last week we talked to another company that does tours in Ghana. And I wanted to have a conversation with you because December is coming up and I thought it would be interesting. And so on that note, I did want to ask you about TRAVELO and Brand E Marketing, because I know you have two companies. Can you talk to us a little bit about, actually, before we even get into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your channel? Because you have a YouTube channel too, which we didn't even talk about. So tell us about your channel, what you talk about on your channel, and we can talk about TRAVELO and Brand E Marketing.
Right. Okay. So, like you said already, my name is Henrietta. Nowadays, I'm telling my tourists that just call me Na. It's very easy. So my name is Henrietta, but you can call me Na. And I am an entrepreneur. I run a brand packaging business, first of all, bags for resorts, hotels, and other brands here in Ghana and outside of it. And then I've recently also started TRAVELO, which is a young, vibrant travel company based here in Ghana. And we're trying to give people a different kind of experience because I feel like people have been touring Ghana in, like a standard way or how we know it to be. And I want to give people like the chance to travel Ghana differently. So that's what I've been doing with TRAVELO in the past few months. It's been really exciting and interesting. And on my channel, which is also called Henrietta Ajiti, on my channel, I do travel videos. And yeah, I do hotel and resorts reviews. I do some amazing tour videos as well. Like sometimes when I get to host groups of people, I have videos of that as well. If people want to, they want to sleep somewhere, they're not sure, is this a nice place, stuff like that, you can go on my channel and type it out and see what I have experienced about the place and whether I recommend it or not. So
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. I will say, obviously I do that. Some of you who are subscribers know I do that in Sierra Leone. And it's really helpful to kind of see what it's like to go to Sierra Leone. And so Henrietta is doing that in Ghana. And she's done a lot more of it than I have. And there's a lot more places that you could go to in Ghana.
That's pretty much about me.
Okay, great. I think there's a little bit of a challenge with the connection. Henrietta, are you hearing me now? Is there a delay?
I can hear you though. Can you hear me? I can hear you though.
Okay. So, okay, I can hear you as well.
I can.
Yeah, I think there's just a little bit of a delay. Okay, cool. Well, so we talked a little bit about your channel, and we talked a little bit about TRAVELO. Forever Local says they follow us both. Nice. What's up, Forever Local? Shout out to you.
Wow, good to know. Hey,
a little cross-pollination there. Nice. Okay, cool. So What kind of trips do you plan? So you did mention you do something
Thank
different
you.
from standard trips and tours. What are some of the trips that
Right.
you plan that you might say are a little bit different from the standard?
So what I like to do is, first of all, if anybody reaches out to me to say that, Henrietta, I want to come to Ghana, what should I do? Or I want to do this and that. First of all, I want to know your interest, because mind you, there are different kind of travelers, right? So what I will do is not to give you like the standard, but I would rather ask you, what are your interests? What are you hoping to do and stuff like that? You would, for example, see like a typical Accra city tour package. So you do the art center, you do maybe Black Star Square, and then maybe some other place like Asumdre Park or something, right? That would be like a standard Accra city tour. But if I speak to a tourist and I ask what are your interests, maybe I realized that, okay, they would love to try some Ghanaian food. Maybe they would like to see how the market is, and maybe they have a little background in arts or music. And so I would design an itinerary based on that for them. Right. So I could have an activity that where we get to do like a pottery class. So you get to do your own pots. You get to do your own mug right here in Accra. I can do an Accra city tour for somebody where part of the itinerary is to do a djembe class. So they do a drumming class, and practice on the drum. I can do a tour of the various markets that we have. Like today we went to Agbogboshi market because the people were interested to see how foods come to Accra from the various towns and villages, and so they were interested in that. I can do an Accra city tour where we get to also cook some Ghanaian meals and see how a typical banku and okra stew is cooked here in Ghana. Background, what excites them. I create an itinerary to me, different, and getting them to experience Ghana in an amazing way. Yeah.
Cool. I like that. That is a different approach. I've done a couple of different tours, and it was definitely based on
Right.
what they thought was the best thing to do. They didn't really ask, what my interests were. I mean, they were still interesting, don't get me wrong, and they were great, but I like the idea that
Right.
you curate the experience based on the individual. That's actually really different, and I like that. That is a differentiator for sure.
Right.
Okay, cool. And how long have you had TRAVELO? How long have you been doing these tours?
So I've been doing the tour since last year.
Okay.
I've been doing the tour since last year. Before last year, I've just been a lover of solo travel. I've just it has just been me, but it's definitely been fun hosting others on trips and getting to see different personalities, and catering to different people, so it's been exciting since last year. I've totally enjoyed this journey, really. I mean, still enjoyed it.
Nice. So there's some questions and comments coming in. I don't want to wait too long to get to them because these are some good ones and they're specifically for you.
Okay.
First, before I do, Forever Local says I'm a new subscriber to both today. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to you.
Thank you.
And Teimosa, I did see the phonetic spelling. It's Teimosa. Teimosa is saying, I would love to hear about what opportunities there are to study traditional dance. I found that this is easier to find in places like Senegal, Cote D'Ivoire, and Guinea. Do you know of any folks that teach traditional dance in Ghana?
Yeah, there are. Just that these things are mostly based on request, at least from what I've seen. They're based on request. And so if, for example, I meet somebody or somebody sends me an email, message, DM saying this is what they're interested in, I'll be happy to find out, which kind of dances they're interested in, and I will give them options as to, how we can get it done. So it shouldn't be a problem at all if this is what they're interested in.
Okay, cool. And then Jerry is saying, please can you give a brief elaboration on the newly opened International Museum in Accra? Do you know about this? Because I don't. There's an international. I didn't even know
Do
there was a new
you?
international museum.
No, I think he means the National Museum. So you know the National Museum was it was closed down for a couple of years and just recently opened. And
Okay.
yeah, we've had so many visitors in so far. I think the last time I checked, I don't want to go off record, but they've had like over 15,000 visitors already since it was open. It should be way over the past that. And it's
Wow.
really exciting because you get to see when you go to the museum, you get to see from ancient Ghana, like how we used to prepare, our food, how our what do you call it, like ancient people who used to live, how like which clothes they got to wear for the very first time, what skin they use, which animal skin they used, the kind of spoons and forks and knives and stones we used to use back then. So I think anybody who has the chance should definitely go to the National Museum. It's open at the moment, and you will have a good time when you go there. They give a very insightful tour. So yeah, you will enjoy some their session when you go there.
Nice, nice. I wasn't even aware, but when I go back, I'm definitely going to do some recording. Awesome.
Sure, you should.
Landmark 22 is saying, is there a 4 to 7 day tour available? Do you do longer tours?
Yeah, I do longer tours. I 4-hour tour, longest you want to do this. So yeah, definitely, I'm happy to curate something for you. So you can send me an email, you can send me a DM. Yeah, any which way.
Okay, and on that note, I think I maybe want to elaborate for them a little bit too. So, I mean, obviously, if you're in Accra, you'll have somewhere to stay, you'll find a hotel, whatever, and then you can just meet up with Henrietta each day. But what about outside of Accra? Do you do like tours outside of Accra or in other countries for extended periods of time, like 4 to 7 days, or maybe even longer? Maybe not longer, but 4 to 7 days.
Yeah, I do outside of Accra. I actually enjoy doing outside of Accra, to be honest with you, because it's beautiful out there. I feel like for a lot of tourists, and I do understand, especially for people who don't have a lot of time, right? They just experience Accra. Some people will live in Accra for like the entire 8 days that they are here. They are not going to go to Ada. They're not going to go to the Volta region, Central, anywhere. They're just going to stay here. And I feel like if you do that, you have a very limited version, of what Ghana feels like, or even what Ghanaians, your experience with Ghanaians. So as much as possible, people should go out. I do have tours outside of Accra. I have Central region where I do Cape Coast and together. We do the castle, and again, based on people's interest, I'm happy to curate tour for them. We can have a tour in the Central region where you learn how to do the batik tie and dye, which some people are interested in, and we can do the Asin Manso. We can do Elmina tour. So again, based on what people are interested in, we can do that. I've done Volta tours, still doing Volta tours. If you want to do a trip to the north as well, there's so many exciting places outside of Accra that I would love for people to check it out. So yes, I do that. I've also just recently started doing Togo and Benin, and so I'm gonna really get into that by December, because I've seen that quite a number of people are interested in that. So I'm putting tours together for December, and for that, it's going to start off as a road trip. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and I can't wait for people to sign on to that because it will really be exciting. So yeah, to answer your question, I do Accra, outside of Accra tours.
And multiple days, right?
Yeah, in multiple days, multiple days. So you could have multiple days tour where people can, like you said, you have your hotel booked, for example, here in Accra, and then every day or every day or two we get outside of Accra. So we can do Volta one day, do Central another day, do Ada another day, do Shai another day, or we can do like on the road all throughout, where maybe we do Accra, we sleep in Kumasi, or we do Cape Coast, we continue up until, you know, whatever itinerary we put together based on your interest. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. And I love the Togo and Benin. So Togo and Benin, which I'm so bad at geography everywhere in the world, but I now know that Togo is to the east, right, of Ghana. And is Benin to the west, or is it the other way around?
No, I think it's the other way around.
Okay, Togo's to the west.
Now you are getting me confused.
I need to look at a map. But anyway, they're the neighboring countries to Ghana, right? And so what is interesting to me is I've met people from a tribe really close to the Togo border, and they have similar names to the names of people that I've known from Togo. Like
right.
I met and because, you know, obviously all the lines are artificial lines drawn by Europeans, right? So
right.
But it's always interesting to see like how similar they are in culture, even though they're different languages,
right?
And invisible border, but the names are the same. Because this guy's name was Mensa, but he was a very different Mensa than the Mensa I knew from Togo. But he was from the border of Togo, but living on the Ghana side. So he's very Ghanaian culturally, but they had the same name, and you know the tribes are very similar, I guess.
Yeah. So we have the same name here as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that answers that question. I think there were a couple more questions that were coming up. Okay,
let's hear them.
Teimosa had a couple questions. Jerry said, is there a place to get more information about traditions and cultural research of the country?
Cultural research, traditional cultural research. So one, I will again say that you can start with the National Museum. You can go there. I think it's a good place. You can also go to Legon. I'm going to find out exactly where on Legon campus you can have some information. Definitely make use of the BAM library if you can. But yeah, it's a good place to start with the National Museum, definitely.
Okay, great. And then just a real quick check-in for those who are just joining us. We are here with Henrietta. She's talking about TRAVELO agency and what you can do outside of Accra or in Accra in terms of tours. She has a company that she's had since last year. She used to do solo travel, and now has built a business around it. And so we just talked about multiple day tours. And if you're watching from Instagram Live, there is a pinned link there that you can go to this so you could see Henrietta instead of just hearing Henrietta. So she is on the YouTube Live. So if you're wondering where that voice is coming from, you just have to click on that link and go to YouTube to watch it. And then we're just answering questions as we go along. There's a lot of questions, a lot of good questions from folks. So we'll keep answering them. So first of all, I was corrected on the geography. Both Togo and Benin are east. Brown Coat Blue and Forever Local made sure to let us know that. They're both,
thank you for that.
I love how smart and educated the chat is. Also, they do Google stuff too. Wow.
Oh, that is so cool.
Okay, cool. Jerry had a good question. He said, what are the budgets for hotels in Aburi?
For hotels in Aburi, you can get, when I say low, I mean starting from like typical guest houses. So you can get as low as 150 cedis to as high as 1,800 cedis a night.
Okay, and so 150 cedis is about $15 right now because of the value of the currency dropping.
The dollar.
CD.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So 150 to basically sorry, $15 to 100 plus dollars per night, basically, is what you're saying, right? US
Right.
dollars. Okay. Just for those of you who are trying to do the calculation in your head, it can kind of, it's basically 10 to 1. It's a little bit more than 10 to 1. It's almost like 11 to 1 and almost 12 to 1, I'm hearing. But if you just do that math in your head, it'll help you understand how much it's going to cost you in US dollars, for sure.
We've crossed actually, Joe.
It's cost 12.
Yeah.
Oh,
I said yesterday because I had another tour yesterday, right? And apparently we've crossed 12. I'm telling you. Yeah.
So Forever Local was asking the question right on time. How do you see currency inflation affecting tours? So you just mentioned it. What are your thoughts, Henrietta?
Well, I can tell you for a fact that as a tour operator, right, like this does not affect us. This doesn't affect me. If the dollar is rising, it's good for me because I'm selfishly saying, like, unfortunately, right, like it's good for tour operators because most of the time you're charging in dollars, right? So this does not affect you. It doesn't affect me as much. But as a Ghanaian, a typical Ghanaian who's spending Ghana cedis and making purchases and knowing that every single time I'm going to buy something, order a ride, get into the restaurant and buy food for my tourists, I know that prices are going up every time. But if you bring it to the tour side of things, it doesn't affect me much because I'm covering it up by charging in dollars. And if you're running tours and you don't charge in dollars, here's what happens. So for example, somebody reaches out to you, let's say in October or let's say September, they want to do some tours in December, and then you charge, say, I don't know, on top of my head, let's just say everything comes up to 5,000 cedis, right? Mm-hmm. And if you charge in cedis, by December, fuel prices are not the same. The hotel prices are not the same. Even food prices are not the same. You're going to be in trouble. So in order to be sure that by the time they're coming to actually do the tours, you're safe and the prices are kind of like, okay, you're not affected. You want to charge in dollars so that you are okay. And if prices go up, you're still safe. So it doesn't affect tour operators as much, really. It doesn't. If you're charging in dollars, there's no problem at all.
There you go. So Forever Local said, yep, 12 to 1 USD. Tiemosa says, wow, it dropped a lot. It did. So for context, when I first arrived in Ghana, this was December 2020, it was 6 cedis to every US $1. So we're now talking about it's past 12 cedis to every $1 US. So it absolutely has dropped a lot. Yes. Bronco
Just
Blue.
Look at that. Whoa.
Yeah. Half its value.
That's a double.
Yeah. Yeah, double the CDs or half the value in literally a year and a half. In a year and a half. Yeah. Which is crazy. Almost 2 years. Hopefully it changes soon. So one thing Bronco Blue said is hopefully the announcement of buying gold in credit for the country and backing the currency with that will stop this slide, hopefully. I did a live on the currency changing and the currency devaluation when
that's crazy.
Oh yeah, it was announced by Bloomberg that it was the second worst performing currency in the entire world. Not because of its value to the US dollar, because there are other countries that have a lower value to the US dollar, but because of how much it dropped, how quickly it dropped. That's why the Ghana cedi is the second worst performing.
Hopefully, yeah. I don't know how that worked, but
yeah, it was based on that. It was based on how quickly it dropped. Because I can tell you right now, even Sierra Leone's currency is valued less than Ghana currency by a ton. So it's not that, it's really just how fast it dropped. But the article did also say that it will likely continue to slide for 12 months if the future is if the past is any indicator of the future. So it's expected to get worse, unfortunately. But hopefully this buying of gold credit, as Bronco Blue says, does change things. Okay, cool. let's see. There's a couple other things. Forever Local says patronizing the Ghanaian businesses, though their prices are now raised too, right? So like restaurants, etc. Yeah. So this is in regards to that question that you were saying. You charge in US dollars, but like if you're doing local, if you're going to local businesses, their Ghanaian cedis have gone up in terms of the price for food. But how much is that going up in terms of how bad inflation is going? Well, we just lost Henrietta. I will speak to this a little bit. So yes, it really sucks for people locally, right, who are getting paid in Ghana cedis, right? Like my former coworkers get paid in Ghana cedis, and last I checked, they didn't have a rate adjustment or an adjustment for inflation. So unfortunately, there has been inflation, and if you're getting paid in cedis, you feel it. You feel the inflation. If you're getting paid in US dollars, you don't, right? You tend to actually have it works out better for you. So before I go on to the next question and before we get Henrietta back, I do want to just let everybody know who's just joining. We do have a special guest on today, Henrietta, and she's talking about her tours that she does around Accra and other countries, and just things that you can do in Ghana when you come to visit. If you're watching on Instagram, you'll be able to hear her, but you won't be able to see her. So I did pin a link to YouTube video, the YouTube live there on Instagram. So you can click on that link and then you can join the live. And if you can't click it, just copy it and paste it in your YouTube browser or whatever, wherever you have YouTube open, and then you can watch the video there. We have Sally here from Gambia. Shout out to Sally. Thanks for joining. Let's see if I can answer some other questions while we're waiting for Henrietta to join again. Let's see. Somebody asked about nightlife. I'm trying to think of who asked about that. So Landmark 22 asked about nightlife, and we'll go back to Henrietta on this question as well. Ghana's nightlife is great. It's amazing. Whatever nightlife you're into, you can get. You can get live bands. You can go to places where they have DJs. They have clubs. You can also go to lounges. There's plenty of different kinds of nightlife, whatever you're into. But we do have Henrietta back, so I'm going to add her back to the stream. I did want to throw this out there to you. There was a question from Landmark 22. How's Ghana nightlife? They love to party.
Yeah. It's exciting. You love it here. If you want live band music, you should definitely check Zen Gardens, Arfikiko as well. They have some good live band music. If you want to do what do you call it? If you want to do like open house or open air kind of party, maybe karaoke, evening drinks, definitely do Republic, because I feel that's a good place to have that. Talking about that too, I think Rehab Beach Club, and then what's the other one around just by Rehab Beach Club? They have like, that nice beach or sea view with good food, nice background music. Rehab Beach is good.
One next to Rehab, right?
It's really good for that.
What's the place next to Rehab?
Sorry?
The place next to Rehab by
I've forgotten the name.
Beach. It's
Sandbox. Sandbox. That's the name. Sandbox.
Yeah. It's
Sandbox.
expensive.
It's crazy when you know something. And when it is, but it's it is expensive.
Yeah.
But it's nice. Bloom Bar is also another great place. Yes, Bloom Bar is also another great place to hang out. Yeah.
I did Bloom Bar for my New Year's Eve experience 2 years ago. Also, if you like lounges, there's a place called Exhale that I really like too. They have good music and it's a really cool vibe.
Where's that? I don't know about Exhale. Maybe I could find out. Where's Exhale?
I think Exhale is near Cantonments. I actually don't know exactly where it is. I just always type it in. And
I may have seen that. Okay. I think I have an idea.
It's like an open area. It's like an open space, and they have like cabanas and stuff around the outside, and then there's like just tables in the middle.
Right.
But it's nice. It's Nice. And if you get there early enough, you can get like a nice little table space. So you don't have to, you're not paying for like a bottle or anything. You just get a nice space. So definitely recommend it. They're also really nice restaurants too. Okay, cool. Jerry asked if you had a website for your tour agency.
So my website is currently under construction, but you can make do with my IG. You will love my IG, my Instagram. But the website should be ready like in the next week or so. It should be ready. But in the meantime, you can check out my Instagram, Henrietta JT. Also, the TRAVELO page is TRAVELO Africa, TRAVELO. Just travel with an O, right? Africa. You can check it out on Instagram and on Facebook as well. You see all the exciting tours. You can also send me an email and I will send you the various packages that I have.
Nice.
Yeah, my email is heyhenrietta.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry. heyhenrietta@gmail.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All of that will be in the description. It's not there at this very moment, but it will on the replay. So if you go back to the replay, you'll be able to see it. Okay, cool. There were some other questions, a lot of questions and comments that were coming in. I want to make sure I capture everything.
Okay.
Let's see. The people talking about the evaluation. Okay, here's a good question. I know the answer to this, but I'll pose it to you. Tiemosa is asking, is there still COVID testing on arrival? I know.
No, not testing on arrival, but you have to have your vaccination card.
Yes, but you could also have had a negative test too to arrive, right? Or no?
Sorry?
Didn't you have to have
no?
Like
now they're really strict with the vaccination card. So for example, like the tour group that I had today, they came in from Israel, and two people could not come because they didn't have vaccination cards.
Ah, so that's back again. Okay,
so
at the end.
So I think that, yeah.
Okay.
I think they're pretty strict with that now. Yeah, as of now.
So yeah, this fluctuates because at the end of last year, right before everybody came, that was the same thing, right? They were requiring vaccination to get to the country, right? I guess because it was large groups of people. And I heard a lot of people canceling their trips for that reason.
Right.
And then they lifted that requirement, if I'm not mistaken, in like March or something of that, something like that earlier this year. Yeah. But it sounds to me that they reinstated it for the December holiday again.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. So back on the nightlife discussion, Teimosa is saying, love Arfikiko. I haven't been, but I heard good things.
Yes. Yeah, and they have this salsa thing going on Wednesday. So they have this salsa. I'm hoping to go there tomorrow because my tourists want me to come for the salsa class and dance on Wednesday. So yeah, you may want to check that out too.
Yeah, Ghanaians love to dance. Teimosa says 233 is also nice too. Yeah, I've been there too. It's pretty cool. I definitely recommend for sure. Okay, cool. Let me see if there's anything else. The people talking about the evaluation. Tim Black is saying,
what's going on, Joe? Okay.
Tim Black was saying, I love history. I would like a tour of historical homes. Do you have any tours that you do of like historical homes? I know the W.E.B. Du Bois.
Yeah, +233. Yeah.
Are there any others that are like national landmarks or just homes that are there? I don't know. Do they have those?
Especially for the old folks, like people who want like that adult space.
So there are tours that you can have of like the older colonial houses from the from those earlier times. Henrietta, can you hear me? Okay, we may have lost her audio, or she may have lost audio for a moment there. Henrietta, can you hear me now? It looks like we lost audio for a second. Let me shoot her a quick note.
Joe, your line is breaking, so I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, so we lost Henrietta again. She'll be back on in a moment. I just messaged her, so she'll be on. In the meantime, let's see what else. So Bronco Blue is just reminding everyone that it is vaccination only to enter the country. Unfortunately, if that is the case, let's see. And so Teimosa is saying no, so no testing requirement if you have proof of vaccination. That is correct. You're no longer required to, well, check the website. But when was the last time I entered Ghana? 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, about 5 weeks ago. So a little over a month and a half ago. So that might be outdated information. But it was the first time I went back to Ghana without them doing tests when you landed. As long as you have your vaccination card, you can just enter no tests. So those long hallways that used to have like little seats where they used to do all your testing, all of that's still there, but you don't have to test anymore. But when you do come down before you're going through customs, they ask you for your vaccination. They ask you for your yellow fever and COVID vaccination. So that is another thing. You do have to have a yellow fever vaccine, and that's something that's always been in place. And so you do want to just make sure you have that, of course, as well. Bronco Blue also says they've only lifted the requirements for citizens and legal residents, but then they would have to do the injection right at the airport. Okay. For foreigners, they never lifted the requirement. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Looks like we have Henrietta back. Henrietta, can you hear us? Henrietta, can you hear us? She's serenading us right now.
Internet, it's my internet. Forgive me.
No worries. Anybody who's a subscriber of my channel knows what challenges we have when it comes to the internet. So we're all a very patient group. We're used to it by this point. So no worries at all.
Oh, my internet.
So there's a question about buying land.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It sounds like there's a delay.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. There's just a delay. But Mark is asking how long, we lost Henrietta again. Mark is saying, how long do I stay in Ghana as an American to buy land? So you actually don't need to, there's no rule to this in particular. What I would do is check out 2 different lives that I've already done on this channel, Mark. I've done one with Ghana Bound. And so you'll see the picture of me. It says Ghana Bound in the middle. And then you see them 2 on the right-hand side. And then I also did a live with Maya King as well, Magnate Realty. And so you'll get 2 different perspectives on the house buying and renting process. But both of them talk about buying houses and what the process looks like. And both of them have mentioned it's not a requirement to have stayed or be Ghanaian or anything of that nature. So definitely check that out when you have a chance. Not right this moment, but when you have a chance. So Forever Local is saying colonial homes or indigenous built homes further outside of Accra metro area. Okay, that's good to know. Teimosa says they've been there. You feel the pain. You know it. Yeah. That's a good question. Mark is asking, is yellow fever done at the airport? I don't know. You want to check travel.gov. I think travel.ghana.gov. Just if you Google traveling to Ghana, you'll have that information. I would recommend doing any of this stuff before you leave. And I think your yellow fever vaccine is, if I'm not mistaken, is now indefinite or it's forever. At one point in time, it was a 10-year vaccine, but I think you should be fine. Okay. And Henrietta's connection is a little bit spotty right now, so we'll give it a second for her to come back. It's a good question. Tiemosa is asking, anything to be aware of coming from a place with high Ebola count? That's an interesting question. I think what you should do is look at when you go to the Ghana site and you go to set up your travel, it does ask you where you've been. And so you can check there to see if there's any issues traveling from there. But they'll let you know what the restrictions might potentially be, because I do know that there has been some questions about certain places that you're coming from, and they do like to ask you, where have you visited in the last 15 days, or where have you been? And so I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. And that's I don't know if Henrietta will have that answer. Maybe we can come back to that with her. But I definitely recommend checking out the travel.gov websites and see if you find information there. Let me see if I can bring Henrietta back on. We don't have video, but we also don't have audio. So let's give it a second. She'll be back on in a second. Cicely said no one is forcing anyone to have the vaccine at the airport. Okay. I would say just look online, because these rules always change, and I don't have the best answers for that. Okay, so Forever Local saying, if you don't have the vax, you will need to test at the airport. If you have it, no test. There you go. And Cicely G is saying that is correct. Tiemosa said they're coming from Uganda. I do know someone else coming from Ghana. I mean, from Uganda to Ghana. They just went to Sierra Leone. I know, different country, maybe different rules, but they didn't seem to have any issues about that. But maybe you should definitely check. Forever Local says Cicely G, I had typos. Glad someone could look past it. Oh, listen, we don't judge here on typos. I have reading comprehension issues and even some challenges with grammar because of it. And so they end up being typos in what I type many times as well. Like I've looked at like descriptions of videos. I go back and look at stuff and I'm like, wow, I used the wrong to. I spelled things wrong. And it's not that I don't know any better. It's just that sometimes it happens. Oh, this is a good question. And I can answer this as someone who's a non-Ghanaian, because people who live on the continent who live there full time and who grew up there don't really take malaria meds regularly. They just take stuff afterwards, like preventative malaria meds. Here's what I'll say. If you're going to be anywhere for 2 weeks or so, then buy malaria meds and just take them, leading up to and while you're there and a little bit after. But if you're going to be there for 6 months, it gets far too expensive to continue to pay for malaria meds. So let me bring Henrietta back on, because we have her visually. Henrietta, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, we're back. We're back. Here's a question that came up, and the way I don't know if you heard my answer to it, because I think you were on, but I basically she's asking about malaria meds. Any opinions on bringing malaria meds? What I said is, if you're staying for 2 weeks or maybe like 3 weeks, you can buy enough to supply you for that time. But if you're staying longer than that, I say take your chances. It gets too expensive. Like at this point, I don't take malaria meds when I live in Ghana. I try not to get mosquito bitten, and knock on wood. But it's way too expensive to buy malaria medication.
Right. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on that. But also what I say to my tourist is, you, and so just do what you're comfortable with, right? Because it's you. And if you feel that this is how you feel safe, then do that.
Yeah. Malaria sucks, by the way, guys. It really is not fun. So I will say that, just to be clear on that.
Right.
Somebody's answering this question. So there's questions about vaccines and what's necessary to come. And so Forever Local is giving us some more insight here and says, yes, yellow fever is done at Cote D'Ivoire, which is the airport in Accra. and they're saying it's about $20 to $25 to get that done. And then Forever Local is also saying it is a 10-year vaccine, so you do have to get it done every 10 years.
Right.
So here's a question. Mark is asking, is Ghana using mobile connection or cable fiber optic? What's called fiber at home, fiber, F-I-B-R-E, just like how you spell it, the British way. That's how they spell it in Ghana. They do the British spelling in Ghana. That's how they do things. We're used to our American spellings. I have two fiber companies at home. I have MTN and Local. MTN and Vodafone. But my Vodafone, even though it's fiber, the connection is not that great because the box that it gets its power from shorts a lot. So that the connection is not good. But MTN is fine for me. I've heard vice versa in other parts of town. So it all depends on what part of town you're in. Are you using fiber, Henrietta?
Yeah. I was using that for Vodafone, but at this point I'm not anymore because I feel it sucks. And like you said, it's a lot about location, right? Because I have other friends at other places where it's working just fine, right? I have a friend in Takwa in the Western region, and it just works fine for her. I don't know, for some reason, it just doesn't work for me. So I've stopped using that. I do Cepline, but it also has its issues, right? And then so I just try and use I just switch from here and do this depending on what's not working. I go back to my MTN. Yeah, I have my table net as well. So yeah, I just use what works at what moment, really. That's how you have to live in Ghana. Like, just have options, really. But we have both options here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there you go. She has 3 or 4 options. I have 4 options. And so, and especially if you create content, you need to have many options because, you know,
that's right.
waiting 2 hours for a 20-minute video to upload will really test your patience.
Oh my God. Joe, I don't know about you, but sometimes I have to wait like maybe 12 midnight or 1 a.m. because then sometimes it feels, especially with the MTN, it feels like the internet is, much stable and it's better just so you can upload. Like, what kind of stress is this? It can be stressful. But yeah, that's how we roll here.
Yeah, the way I understand it is the load is lower because less people are online at that time, right? If you do it at 12 a.m., 1 a.m., not as many people are online, and so you have more bandwidth available to you. That's the way I understand it. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I was told. So there's a couple questions more about malaria meds. We've now become pharmacists. Let's see. I don't know if you have the answer to this. But Teimosa is saying, yes, I've heard that, but are local meds better than meds purchased overseas for malaria meds?
When you say, well, when it comes to malaria medicines, I would say that more of the locals like to do herbal medicine. Herbal medicine is a lot of what local folks depend on, or that's what they trust. I don't know if you know a lot about the neem tree, but there are quite a number of medicines around the neem tree, and there's a little history behind that. Where the Europeans who came here, the British who came here, used that to treat malaria. And so up till now, these trees are used for the treatment of malaria. So as far as locals, like real locals are concerned, we use a lot of these herbal medicines. But like I always tell my tourists, please, 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 if you feel like you have to bring your medicines down and that's what you're comfortable with, feel free to do that. Feel free to do you. It's about what's comfortable for you. But a lot of local folks depend on herbal medicines here for malaria treatment.
There you go. There it is. I've done everything. I brought malaria medication from the States before. I've also bought malaria medication in Sierra Leone before. I don't know if I bought any in Ghana before. I don't think I have. And I will tell you that I don't know if there's a difference because either time I didn't get malaria and I haven't to this day, knocking on wood again. So I don't know. I don't know what's better. And then also a lot of medications are imported from other places. There's like Indian medication a lot of times too. So there can be Indian or sometimes even from China as well. So there's even international medications available in Ghana from time to time. Okay, let's see.
Because your system is used to it. At this point, Joe, your system is used to it. Your system is used to it at this point.
You feel like the potential for like getting malaria? You think that, yeah, when I get bit by a mosquito, maybe I don't have the same symptoms as someone else who might be coming? Is that what you're saying? I think we lost Henrietta's audio a little bit. Okay, so we'll give her a second to join back. There we go. Are you back, Henrietta? Can you hear us? Okay, I think we lost her audio. Or it's a bit delayed. Maybe it's a bit delayed. Tiemosa was saying, really, I thought yellow fever was a lifetime. I mean, I've read it a couple different places. Some people say it is.
Yeah,
for sure. Yellow fever used to be a 10-year vaccine, but I have read in other places that they do have the vaccine that works for a lifetime. I don't know if it's a different vaccine or if they're just saying you get it once and now you can keep it for a lifetime. Not really sure, but we are not medical professionals, so I definitely would recommend you look this up online to get the details, because the last thing you want to do is think that your yellow fever vaccine from more than 10 years ago is adequate, and then you get there and it's not. And so you don't want to just add any additional stress. So we lost Henrietta again, but she'll be back in a moment. Tiemosa was saying, Joe, are you thinking about Google Fi will be an alternative to local internet? Maybe it will one day. They're really big on trying to build fiber all around the continent. They're working on that now. Actually, there's a project they're working on. In the meantime, if I understand correctly, I think they're using satellites, and I think that's why there's better connection for most people in different places, because they put satellites in orbit. Mark is asking, do you have repellents? Yes. You mean bug repellents? Absolutely. So I got all of them. I got the killers, the bug killers. I got the bug sprays that I put on my skin. I use coils, mosquito coils. I use any and all options, and I don't open windows at night. That's the other option that I don't do. I do not open windows at night because the mosquitoes will find their way through those mesh nets, no matter what. So yeah. Here we go. So Forever Local says, neem works wonderful for me for natural mosquito repellent. Use leaves as tea. And if you're brave, you can chew bitter leaves. Yeah, there you go. Tiemosa was saying, I was thinking it could be an option versus buying a local SIM. Yes, Google Fi is an option versus buying a local SIM. However, there are international charges if you want to make phone calls, right? So if you have a local SIM, you can at least make local phone calls, but you can use, and you can buy a phone here, well, locally, but because they have dual SIMs. But you can buy a local SIM to use it for local phone calls, but maybe you use the data from the Google Fi SIM card to use your data. And then this is back to yellow fever. Brown Coat Blue says they changed it to lifetime based on long-term observations. That means the yellow fever vaccine. There you go. So that answers that. Henrietta, are you back? Can you hear us? And let's see if we can hear you.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yes. You have to exercise patience, guys. This is what you're seeing in real time. The patience, your patience.
You need a lot of patience to live here.
Absolutely.
Hey, Joe, I'm glad at least you know what the system is like here.
Yeah, I've lived it. I have that lived experience. Someone is telling me, so we're back on the conversation of mosquito coils. And so Cicely G says those coils are toxic. Okay, well, now that I know, maybe I won't use them as often. Tiemosa said, I've also used lemon eucalyptus. Okay, cool. Okay, let's see what else do we have. Let's see if there's any questions I missed. There's some new questions coming up. Let's see. Let's jump into that one. So C. Martin says, it's funny that I'm also split about Sierra Leone, and I really pray for the growth of these countries. Did I miss an earlier statement about Sierra Leone? I must have, or maybe it was blocked. I don't know. Sometimes Google blocks comments.
Maybe.
Depending on if they feel like it's incendiary or not. But yes, as of right now, just to, I mean, because we're talking about Ghana on this live, but a real quick shout out to Sierra Leone, my home country. The more I learn, the more I figure out that I'm not really that Sierra Leonean, just my ancestors spent some time there. But I do have some Sierra Leonean family, like a quarter of my blood is true Sierra Leonean. But yeah, I mean, they had some civil unrest, a few weeks back, and there are some conversations about whether or not that's going to persist, and people are a little worried about the elections coming up. But as of right now, I have a group of friends that are all there who spent a number of years of their lives in the United States, and they don't feel unsafe. We haven't had these conversations at all about the civil unrest or anything like that since everything that happened during the protest a few weeks back. So for those of you who are that worried, it's not as bad as you might think, but also stay close to paying attention to what's happening in the news and people who you might know that are there. Or if you want to continue to ask me, I'll continue to give you guys updates because anything can change at the drop of a dime. And on that, okay, so just a couple things. Forever Local says, I had to retake my yellow fever in 2021 because it was older than 10 years. Maybe with my new shot, I won't have to retake it. Maybe, I don't know that. Mark says, can I buy a local SIM card with my ID? Because I read some news about Ghana SIM cards. So I got my SIM card with my ID. I don't know if you can without it. I have a residency ID, so I don't know what other people can do. What do you know about this, Henrietta? From what I understand, you can't, right? If you try to use your passport, you can't register a local SIM, can you? Oh, I think Henrietta might have lost her audio. We'll get back to her on this one if she can answer it. Henrietta, can you hear me now? Okay, it looks like she lost her audio. So Forever Local is saying, Jerry, besides December, are there any cultural dates or festivals you recommend considering Ghana travel? This is for Jerry. Jerry is one of the subscribers on the live. I love how everyone's talking to each other. I posted this on not knowing that she was asking Jerry, not one of us. But Henrietta, do you have your audio back, or have you lost your audio? Can you hear me? It looks like she lost her audio. Henrietta, do you have your audio back? Yeah, we lost her audio again. We'll give her a second to connect again. These are some of the challenges with Wi-Fi in Ghana. So unfortunately, that is the case. What Cicely G is saying, you need a Ghana card to register a local SIM. That's what I've been told, and that's probably true. And so that makes things tough, right? Because if you're staying for an extended period of time, then you got to figure out how to get a residency card. I got it through my former employer, so that made it easy for me. And so I got all my SIM cards registered, but I have to get a SIM card, a new SIM card registered again. So let's see. Oh, and Forever Local was actually meaning to ask Henrietta that question, not Jerry. Got it. Benjamin says, I love Sierra Leone. No place like home. I can't wait for December. Well, neither can I. I'll be there. I'll be there as well. I'm really looking forward to it. Tim Black says, are African countries doing anything to improve the internet? I think Google is doing something to improve the internet right now. There are certain countries that don't have issues as much. Like Kenya seems to have really good Wi-Fi. A lot of times Yeah, Kenya, I think really had really great Wi-Fi. I'm trying to think about when I was at Jumia and all the different people on the Google chats when we were in meetings who always had the best connection. And I think Kenya for sure was fine. I think Egypt was fine as well. South Africa might have been a little bit better, but I know for sure Nigeria had issues for sure. Ghana, we had our own issues. Senegal and Ivory Coast, maybe Ivory Coast didn't have such bad connection. I think they were pretty good. Senegal, I'm not sure. I can't remember. But anyway, sometimes it's going to take private companies to do this, you know. Tim Black did ask a question, and a great question. Tim, this is a great question. When is your Atlanta meetup? Tim, that's a great question. And unfortunately, I was already in Atlanta and I wasn't able to do the meetup. This is why I say I need an assistant to set this stuff up for me. Because, you know, I have a full-time job, which has to take precedence, absolutely takes precedence, because it is a pretty demanding role. And there's a lot that I'm responsible for. And I need to ensure, you know, we have revenue goals that we need to meet. And so with that, meetups, which require a lot of time, right? Like even all the editing of videos require time, but meetups require coordination with venues or finding a venue, and also in particular, even like pulling people together. So yeah, that's the challenge. So to answer your question, I didn't do the Atlanta meetup. I may just try to just throw something together for LA, some basic something like, if you guys just want to meet up, let's meet up. But I was planning to put together a whole tour for this trip to the United States, and it really, really is difficult to do, but just to say the very least. So I will say, if anybody wants to volunteer in any of the major cities that I will be in, if you want to volunteer to help me put together the meetup, I would greatly appreciate it. So I am in New York until Friday, so that won't happen. But next week, I'm in LA for the 2 weeks. So the following weekend, if somebody wants to give an idea, some suggestions, let me know, and we can work that out. Upon my return to New York, I'll be back in New York early in November, the first week in November. Sorry, the second week in November, after the 6th or so. So maybe we could potentially do something when I get back. And then I'll be in DC the weekend of the 12th. So if somebody wants to do a meetup there and help me organize something, I'm definitely taking some volunteers. You can email me at authenticafricanlife@gmail.com, and we'll work out the meetup schedule for Saturdays. Phoenix Mars says, I'm planning my first small group trip there for next year. I'm assuming that's Ghana, hopefully. Bobby E. Wright says, hello, what's up? By the way, vaccine, yes, you do need your vaccine card to enter, or you have to get tested when you land in Ghana. By the way, if you guys want to see our guest whenever she's able to come back on, you just want to join the YouTube live. The link is pinned there. And if you're on Instagram live, just so you know. And then for anybody who's just joining, you know, we're talking to Henrietta about what things you can do in Ghana, whether that's in capital city or outside the capital city of Accra, during this December holiday and beyond. But her internet does keep giving her some challenges. So I'm going to move on to keep answering questions, and then we'll bring some questions back to her when she's able to join back in a second. So there's just people commenting on Instagram about preferring and understanding having the yellow fever vaccine versus others. What's up, Tay? If you are joining the Instagram live, you definitely want to go to the YouTube link that's pinned so that you can watch us on YouTube. My friend Tay from Atlanta was just on the Instagram live. All right, cool. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything else that people had in terms of questions or comments that we want to talk about. I noticed that I do that a lot too. What I'm thinking. You notice things when you do live every week and you go back and watch them. Okay, let's see. So Cicely G says it's easy to get a Ghana card. You can get one in an hour. Okay. I would love to know what that process looks like, Cicely. If you could share that with us, or maybe we can have you on a live and we can talk about that, because I think that'd be really important for people to hear, especially between now and December. People who are planning to come and who are going to need to buy a local SIM card, because it's going to be trouble if you don't. But in the meantime, you guys could always just buy like Google Fi for a month and just get one of the plans just to ensure you have Wi-Fi when you travel, and then you could figure out getting a local card. In terms of Wi-Fi, Tiemosa says Senegal wasn't great outside of Dakar. Got it. Yeah, Tiemosa, so you thought you can get a local SIM with a passport? Not anymore. No, they've done this new process. Nigeria's done this as well. But in Nigeria, you can buy a local SIM card without an ID at the airport. So there's people who have SIM cards associated with somebody's ID. I don't know how that works, but they definitely sell you SIM cards at the airport in Lagos. How do I know? Because I had a local phone number in Lagos and I bought a SIM card. And so in Ghana, you do have to have a local SIM card. So she was saying, does this change? It did change. Yes, unfortunately. Okay, they're apparently preloaded phones. I'm not familiar with that, but okay. Forever Local said my connection was fully awesome in Rwanda. Rwanda has done a really good job of turning things around. Talk about a country that had a civil war and really like changed things. It's really, really dope. Teimosa saying, hit me up about LA. Send me an email though if you have any ideas, because I need ideas for places to do it. And also saying, check out the park in DC. Let me know what you think. Okay, I'll check it out. In DC, I have a friend who can help you with the space. That'll be great. I'm trying to do something that's cost effective, meaning free. So if we can find something that's free, that's the ideal scenario. And if somebody wants to do something for free and we can promote their space, because I'm going to film the meet and greet, I'm more than happy to do like a quick little infomercial before or after the event footage, so that they can get some free promotion on it as well. So if you can help with that, that'd be great. Mark says, does Ghana have flights to Cape Coast? That's a good question. I don't know. I flew into Accra and drove to Cape Coast, but that would be a question we can ask. Oh, actually, you could just Google that. You can Google that. You should be able to Google that to see. I'm not sure that they do though, but I could be wrong. Cicely says they can do a live with me. Great. Let's can you shoot me an email so we can structure that conversation so we can talk through that process, because I think that could be really interesting. And Teimosa says, I've heard amazing things about Rwanda. So have I. So have I. Met some Rwandans in Ghana as well, and they were all really. Oh no, sorry, Sierra Leone, not in Ghana. And they're all really cool. Again, if you're joining us, we're talking about things you can do in Ghana, travel-wise, tours and travel outside of December, during December, etc. And our special guest is Henrietta Agite, but it looks like she may have lost her connection, and it feels like it may have been lost for good. It's been a good couple of minutes, and she hasn't been able to rejoin. So I'm going to press on and see if we can add her back on if she does get her connection back. Sorry, just reading messages as we go along. So Bronco Blue is saying it's only a few hours. Yeah, okay, so she said Cape Coast. Sorry, they said Bronco Blue says Cape Coast has no airport, but it's only a few hours ride from Accra, about 3 hours or so. Teimosa said my friend just built a house there. Nice. Very little red tape and corruption is highly frowned upon in Rwanda. Yes, so I hear. Okay, here we go. Bronco Blue says there's an STC bus that's easy and cheap. Last time I took it, it was only 40 CDs, which is about $4, a little less than $4, to go 3 hours away to Cape Coast. So there you go. There's a suggestion for you. I did have some other questions for Henrietta, but here's what we'll do. I'm going to set up because we are now an hour and 40 minutes into this live, I just realized. And so what I'll do is I'll set up a separate time to talk to her. It's 10:40 her time right now, so it's a little bit late over there, and I don't want to keep bringing her back on so late at night. If you guys have any questions, make sure to, on the replay of this, ask your questions on the replay, and we'll either get her to come back on another live, or I'll do another interview with her, and I'll just post that up as a standalone video. All right, before we go, any last minute questions for me before we get out of here? I'm just messaging her to let her know that she doesn't need to get back on. Sorry, I know that it's bad radio to have dead air time. Sorry, I was just typing something to message her. Now, Teimosa says, says, I think to hire a private car to Cape Coast, I believe it's about $150 for the day. $150 or Ghana cedis? It might be $150. I've definitely paid a pretty penny to drive, even to Aqua Safari Resort. It's like over $100. Forever Local says, I haven't been to Ghana on the Ghana train yet, but there's a route from Accra to Cape. But is there a route? I don't know too much about the trains, unfortunately. I know that, and that would have been a great question for Henrietta, because she would probably know. I don't know that, but I'm not aware of the train system anyway, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that there's a reliable train. Correct me if I'm wrong if anybody knows, but I'm pretty sure there isn't. Mark says, Google's giving me flight prices to Cape Coast. I'm confused. That's why I asked that question. Interesting. They did. So maybe there was just an airport nearby. Is there a local airport near Cape Coast? Is that why? And is it because you saw, well, yeah. I'm not really sure about that, but that's a good point. Teimosa says, is Aqua Safari worth a drive? It is. It is. It's a pretty cool place. I mean, I've never jet skied before, so they have jet skiing out there. It's really cool. They have boat rides you can do there. It's a great couples resort kind of situation. So if you're coming as a couple, it's really good, like a getaway from Accra. And the food is pretty good as well. They have some wildlife on the property too, so you can do horseback riding and horse petting. Obviously, they have a nice swimming pool there. There's also the ocean nearby. So yeah, I would definitely recommend going out there if you have an extended period of time. If you only have a week, then you choose your time wisely, right? But if you have a long time, then yeah. Cicely G says no train from Accra to Cape Coast. Answer that question. Okay. So there is a train that goes from Tema to Kaneshi. I don't know where that is, but I guess maybe it gets you closer to there. But also Tema is a little bit outside of Accra as well. And Forever Local saying they seen the train. It was beautiful and they were shocked. All right, guys. So we have reached the end of this live. We've been on for an hour and 40 minutes. It's time for me to eat some dinner. I also need to follow up. Send a follow-up email to my CEO. We had a meeting earlier today. And so I am going to do that immediately following this call. And then again, I'm going to say this to all of you. Any of you guys who know me know this. I mentioned this on the last couple of lives. Up to almost 70% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribers. So I'm going to say to you again, if you watch the video this live this long and you're not a subscriber, subscribe this very moment. Subscribe this very moment. We need you to subscribe at this very moment, because as you subscribe, it ensures that more people are seeing and hearing this content, and you're helping more people indirectly by becoming a subscriber. Okay. Henrietta won't be making it back, but Forever Local did say if Henrietta makes it back, it would be cool for her to talk a little about single-day excursions to other regions. Okay. We'll talk to her about that. And also, if you're interested in that, you can look at last week's live where we did talk about single day excursions to other regions, because the other folks on last week's live do that. My voice is going in and out because last weekend was my 20-year high school reunion. There was a lot of talking over loud music. All right, cool. So again, thanks everybody for watching. I want to thank Henrietta for joining. She was very helpful and insightful. I will say that I appreciate all of you, especially those who keep coming back. Cicely G, Brown Coat, Blue, you know, all of you who keep joining and keep coming back. Menelik, who keeps coming back. King Joseph's a new person. Abu Bakar, who comes back. I want to give a special shout out to Forever Local and Teimosa for being really active today, and Jerry for being active. Landmark 22, thank you for joining and being active. I don't want to miss anybody. Tim Black, thanks for asking your questions as well. Dan Diablo, even with your your crazy questions. But yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining. And if you like this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you comment on the replay, because the replay comments are the ones that give the algorithm the juice to get this in front of more people. And make sure you share this with anybody you know who's planning to travel to Ghana and is looking for specific tours, or want to know if there are any tours. With that, thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you all on the next video.